Welcome back to the Morning Brew here on CNC3, and now we want to turn our attention over to Guyana's Minister in the Ministry of Public Works, Mr. Deodat Indar. He's joining us via Zoom, and among the things we'd be discussing is the recent passage of the game-changing local content bill. Now, the legislation assures Guyanese and local companies of contracts in the multi-billion-dollar oil and gas sector. In essence, the new law prioritizes Guyanese nationals and companies in the procurement of some goods and services. Mr. Indar, good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Indar, let me first begin by asking, what does this law mean for the country's socio-economic journey?
Well, it means a lot to start with. The private sector over a number of years now, for some of your listeners and viewers, in Guyana we found oil in 2015, and from then to now, the private sector, every aspect of the private sector in Guyana has been requesting, fighting for this law because they understand that it will generate benefit for their businesses and jobs, and by creating those, the socio-economic benefit to Guyana is something that will surely happen. Guyana, as you know, is a country that was behind on the development trajectory, but with the advent of oil coming on stream, it drives a lot of secondary industries onshore. So I believe that it means a lot for the development of our people.
You know, Mr. Indar, generally, TNT and Guyana have always had a really good and healthy relationship. However, there are now some concerns about what this legislation spells for that relationship, especially with those who are involved in the oil and gas industry and, you know, local contractors and whatnot. What's your take on this sentiment about the existing relationship and the future relationship between both countries?
Well, you know, bilateral relationships between Guyana and Trinidad go back a very long time. You're correct, Jesse. And recently, after the passage of the law on the 29th of December of 2021, we saw a leaked email from the Caribbean Private Sector Organization by their chairman in the private sector in Guyana. I think a lot of people took umbrage to that, and they went out into the airways and to the media and express their dissatisfaction with the manner in which it was done. Because the local private sector, the local stakeholders, they said clearly that if there was an issue with the local content legislation that was passed, at least the CPSO should have dealt with them, have a conversation with them, and find a way around it. But that did not happen. So it created an outrage in Guyana about local content, simply because the local content ring-fenced about 40 areas of service for Guyanese, which is no different from what Trinidad has in their local content policy. Your local content policy speaks about preference to the local community or businesses that have capacity. And the same way Guyana one is done, where they have 40 areas that they ring fence. And there are a lot of areas of goods and supplies offshore and onshore in the sector. So we have ring fenced 40 services out of maybe 200 plus different areas. So we didn't ring fence the entire thing, just 40 areas that Guyana, the government of Guyana, in consultation with the private sector in Guyana, has reached a consensus where we found demonstrable capacity to do those services. And it's actually found in this Schedule 1 of the law, which includes things like rental of office space, accommodation, and so on. You know, some of the services that we can do in Guyana. We ring-fence those for Guyanese. With respect to the relationship, you know, we have bilateral relationship with every Caribbean country. We are part of CARICOM together. But there are a number of things that, Guyanese in the past trade, technical barriers to trade, and so that they had issues with how, Trinidad treated Guyanese
Right.
with respect to, imports or Guyanese produce goods that are not accepted in Trinidad, and there's long battle with that at COTED. But there are sometimes when you have these trade issues that don't get worked out, and after year after year after year, move into decade after decade,
Right.
they will sometimes led to some kind of resentment in the business community between one another, simply because we import a lot of stuff from Trinidad. The country of Guyana import a lot of stuff. You are the biggest traded partner for us in the CARICOM block. So, that relationship need to be balanced. If we import your products and your produce, with least amount of restrictions, it is only fair that when we export, our people in Guyana can export with ease, with ease, so they don't have much amount of restrictions.
And I want to pick up on that point there, Mr. Deodat. You mentioned the word balance there, and I can only imagine just how many other countries and nations will be jostling for a space in Guyana at this point in time, given their recent development and their future prospects. In that conversation, what is the space like for business owners and technocrats here in Trinidad over in Guyana? What's that space looking like for you?
Well, if you've been keeping a track of it, Jesse, what has happened is because Trinidad is in close proximity to Guyana, when we found oil, a lot of Trinidadian companies came to Guyana and set up shop, and they're operating. And what this law really seek to do is to give Guyanese also a fighting chance, because a lot of Guyanese are locked out of it. But to answer your question about Trinidadians and other nationals throughout the world, whether it's from Canada, whether it's from the US, whether it's people from Norway, other producing nations like Ghana, we have persons, technocrats, skilled persons, businesses, everybody are coming to Guyana. And we are an open society. We are an open investment destination. We have an office actually set up for persons or firms coming into country, where they are guided and they are assisted to set up in country, so that they can work and they can partner with our people, or they could just establish by themselves and carry on business. We have a lot of them that have done so in the past. A lot of Trinidadian companies, Bayesian companies, Jamaican companies, they're here set up and working. So we are not a closed economy, we're an open economy, and we encourage foreign investment into our country. But with respect to the oil and gas side of it, which is this particular sector, a lot of the costs is recovered through cost oil, and Guyanese have to pay that cost. And it is only fair to Guyanese that some of the service that are required and the goods that are required offshore and onshore in the sector, that Guyanese be given first preference for that. And the percentage vary in this 40 area that I spoke of, this 40 area, the percentage vary on each particular service area. So immigration, we might have 100%, but then if you look at waste disposal, like hazardous waste and so on, it's only 25%. Borehole testing services only 20%. Engineering and machinery only 5%. So where we don't have the capacity right now, the demonstrable capacity, the percentage are far lower than in the areas where we have developed capacity since we became a republic in Guyana. We have developed capacity like custom brokerage, things like transport, and so those percentages are relatively higher.
So therefore, Mr. Deodat, I understand the need to protect and prioritize Guyanese nationals here. Would you therefore say that some of the concerns being expressed here in Trinidad and Tobago are unwarranted?
Well, actually, we have to look at the fairness of it. So
Sure.
every country that have a local content regime, if you look at those policies, whether it's a policy or a legislation, you'll find that it gears to protect the citizens of that country. If you look at Canada, they have a feed-in program. That's a version of local content where it gives Canadians preference. If you look at the US, they have, Made in America Act, where a lot of it is for American companies. If you look at Norway, similarly. If you look at Ghana, you'll find a similar legislation. If you look at Brazil, it's similar. Argentina, China, Russia, all of these countries, if you look at them, they have a version of local content that protects their locals. So for Guyana, it's no different.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, it's the citizenry that has to pay for cost oil. It's recovered in a process through where the taxpayers have to bear the cost. So having 40 areas ring fence, we as a government, we did not see that being a problem for any other, nation state. It's just that, we are also encouraged in the legislation partnership. So if persons come over, they have a particular background and skill in the oil and gas sector, they can find somebody in Guyana who have similar kind of, background and skill and work together. The oil and gas sector obviously demands more rigorous standards and so on of operating, whereby other sectors in Guyana may not require all of those standards. So, what we encourage are partnerships so that Guyanese can benefit as well.
Understood. Mr. Indar, unfortunately, time is against us. But before I wrap this interview, I'd just like to get your comments, your thoughts, and perhaps just your general views on something that's really, piquing our interest here in Trinidad. In fact, it's our lead story in the Guardian newspaper today, and it's on a Guyanese woman who has been living in Holland for the past 30 years. She's been detained here since Saturday after she entered the country on a connecting flight to Guyana. And it goes on to say that the officers told her she was being detained and would be deported as she did not have 2 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. I don't know if this is something that has, reached the media in Guyana just yet, but did you have any information on it?
I saw something briefly last night when we were in Parliament, but can you just say to me what the concerns, you said piques the concern in Trinidad?
So local authorities, and I mean here the officials in immigration, they're saying that she would have been detained, and she was being detained rather, and threatened her with deportation after she did not have 2 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. June.
Go ahead.
She was en
route to Guyana?
I beg your pardon?
She was en route to Guyana?
That's correct. Her name is June Ann Gravzande, and her 3-year-old daughter, Daisy Ann, were detained by immigration officers as they entered the country on a flight from Amsterdam.
Okay, I believe I saw something on the headline that she has a waiver from the Guyana Secretariat?
Correct.
Well, that means if she got a waiver from the Guyana Secretariat, she only has 1 dose and she has a waiver. That means upon presenting that document, in fact, she would have had to get approval for that waiver through a rigorous process from the National COVID-19 Task Force in Guyana. And if she would have gotten a waiver to come to Guyana and be accepted by our immigration at our ports, that means we have already issued the authority so that she will be accepted.
Right.
So I do not understand why the immigration there would detain her when she has a document to say that she will be accepted in Guyana. by the authorities in Guyana.
Is this something that Guyanese officials will be looking into?
Certainly, certainly. If she's a Guyanese person that is stranded somewhere or the next, for some reason, we will have to, our foreign ministry will have to see what's going on there and get involved.
You know, Mr. Indar, this begs the question, how do you think a situation like this should have been handled given the current relationship and the current climate between both countries? How do you think something like this should have been handled?
Well, it's no secret that, Guyanese over a number of years, and this happened to me too, when I was a private citizen, passing through Trinidad, sometimes, you do go into, not everyone, but you do sometimes face these things. It's something that, I think that we can do better as regional partners. I think we can do it better. But if I come to you with an authority, a letter saying that I'm just passing through your country, going to a destination, and I have the authority here in a document approved for me to go to that destination, why hold me up?
I understand. Mr. Indar, unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to say thank you so very much for joining us here on the Morning Brew on CNC3. We will continue to monitor developments, and thank you so much again for weighing in on a number of issues.
Thank you very much for having me, and God bless.
Most welcome, sir. Well, it's now time for another short commercial break. We have much more for you right here on CNC3.